Greetings, mortals, and welcome. Please present your tickets for validation. Thank you. Your existence has been acknowledged, and you have been granted access every Thursday and Friday. You will be accompanying your guides, Krista and Brandy, along with a world-renowned guest. They will be exploring an intriguing tendril of what humans refer to as reality each week, as they strive to advance you further down the path to the truths of your physical earth and what lies on the other side. Remember to please keep your hands and feet in the vehicle at all times, and do not exit until the craft has come to a complete stop.
Hey, everybody. Welcome.
Welcome, everybody. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Woohoo. 4-day weekend for me.
Well, I was sitting here going, well, I don't know how happy it is. Some of us still have to work over the weekend. And for our part of the country, the weather is nasty. Krista got all the snow and I got the sleet and the ice. So I'm not happy about it.
Yeah, we got about 4 inches here.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. I saw the pictures with the horses and everything. It was beautiful.
Yep. I was sitting here working from home, looking outside, and I looked out there and I seen them all standing out there. I was like, oh, that's a great picture. So
that's a good picture. Let me just stop for a second. Let me stop work and take a picture.
And I did. It's all good though. You know what I did today, Brandy?
What'd you do?
Myself. I bought a $200 cat litter box.
You did not.
I did. You know what? We got this cat now, right?
Right.
And hate litter boxes. And so my son swears by this. My son has 2 cats and a dog. And he swears by these litter boxes that, it doesn't make your house stink. But you only like change the thing like monthly. I'm like, okay, we're going to try
monthly?
It. So I broke down and I spent $200 on a self-cleaning litter box. So we're going to see how well this works. And I will let you know.
I hope it works for that kind of money. I couldn't see myself spending that kind of money. I just can't, and I told my daughter, because she wanted her cat, and I'm like, you can have a cat. I don't care. I said, I'm just not cleaning the litter box. And she's been very, very good.
Yeah.
And she's had the cat over a year and we haven't had any problems. And when I kind of, have that whiff of it, everyone is, I like, you didn't clean that litter box. She goes, okay.
Right.
She doesn't have any problems.
Yeah.
But I would be lazy too. I would want to do it.
Yeah. Yep. So I just, I did it and we'll see how it works. I'll keep you updated. Next time you come to my house, you'll have to tell me if you smell a cat or not.
Yeah, week to week, just give you a phone call. Hey, it's still smelling okay.
Yeah. And what's funny is the cartridges that you change it out with, I bought lavender.
Oh, ooh. Yeah.
So that should be interesting.
Well, let's hope you don't have poopy lavender.
Right?
I mean.
Who knows? So we'll see what happens.
Right. But I want to welcome everybody to the new time. Thanks for coming. Like I said, we're making room so Josh can move up his show. And so we just moved a little earlier. It's not a big problem for us. I'm glad everybody is here. I hope everybody's excited. I'm excited.
Yeah. Me too.
Let me run through the channel lineup real quick and get that out of the way. Of course, on Monday nights at 8 p.m., it's Texas Front Porch. On Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Central, it is Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob. Not brunch. I am getting them confused already. It's Beyond BMR. It's Beyond BMR with Bigfoot Michigan Rob and his lovely co-host, Krista. Yes. On Wednesday nights, of course, at 7 o'clock, it's Donnie Cho Says Stuff. And at 8 o'clock, it is Inhumanoids with Barton Nunnelly and his beautiful wife, Letitia. On Thursdays, of course, at 12 p.m. Central, there is Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob. And he doesn't have a co-host currently, but he's putting out some pretty good shows, so make sure you get over there and watch that. Thursday nights at 8 p.m. We're still the same at 8 p.m. Thursday nights, Blondes and Booze. And on Friday, The new change is at 7 p.m. Blondes, Booze, and the Woo. So if you can't get enough, come visit us at 7 o'clock on Friday night. Saturdays, we currently don't have a show, but Paranormal Paul, which everybody seems to call him now, but it's Paranormal Among Us, featuring Paul. He's got a new show on Saturday, so go check that out. And on Sundays, Randy and myself, our new show, Truth or Tinfoil, is at 5 p.m. So if you haven't subscribed, please jump to that channel. We are streaming on Texas Front Porch, but jump to that channel to please subscribe and like and get the notifications. So when we're coming on, I realized we were on Super Bowl Sunday, but I'm from Missouri, so you'll have to forgive me while I smile. While I smile. And of course, at 6 p.m. Central, Tex and Daniel Diva dropped their newest episode of Infamous Minds. So make sure you check that out. And that's all we have for now.
Yes. Awesome. Yeah, we're on a roll, man.
We're not done. We're not done. It's ever changing. It's all changing all the time.
Absolutely. And thank you, Tex, for the memberships. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Tex.
For sure. Let's talk about this real quick because we haven't done it this week.
Right.
A couple of things to talk about. Let's talk about that one.
Oh, yes. Women of the Paranormal. This is an event that is being held. Where is it being held at? At Harriman, Tennessee. You've got me covered up with. There you go. Thank you. At Harriman, Tennessee, and it's at the. I'm pretty sure it's at the hospital itself, isn't that correct? I think
it's across the street or something.
Oh, across the street. Well, I want to tell you something. The Harriman Hospital has just opened up for paranormal investigations just in the last year or two.
Yeah.
Probably the last 2 years, and I heard that place is crazy haunted. They do have the conference going on during the day on the 24th, but on the 23rd and 24th, those evenings, they will have ghost hunts going on at the Harriman Hospital. You can go to their website, check it out.
And I think she has one going on at Brushy Creek or something too, don't she?
Yes, I think so. Brushy Mountain, which is one of my favorite locations to go. It's just a crazy Brushy Mountain Penitentiary. That is a really cool place. I just love that place. Yep. It is for women of the paranormal, and it supports abuse against women. But let me tell you, men are welcome too, because we know abuse happens to everyone.
Yeah, and you don't have to be a victim of abuse either to come, you know.
Exactly. Sure. It's just they're raising money for it, and that's what we're doing. So it's good.
Yep. And then let's talk about this real quick.
All right. This is the Alabama Bigfoot Conference. This is being held in Anniston, Alabama at the Anniston Performing Arts Center. It is the 7th and the 8th. The 8th, our speaker lineup is Jason McLean, Greg Ogles, Barton Groves, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, of course, us Blondes of Blue Booze, Daryl Denton, Barton Nunnelly, and our MC for the night is Tex Wesson. You know, on the 7th, we are having a dinner. The seats in the room are already reserved, but let me tell you, this is a restaurant. You can go and have dinner in another room and come in and meet with us and talk with us too. Nobody's going to say anything. I won't say anything.
Nope. I sure won't say anything.
So you sure can do that too. We're not going to turn anybody away. I promise you. Yep. And, you know, and if we have a tendency, we have a tendency to go out afterwards, just to socialize some more, and we'll let you know when that is. So,
yep. When and where.
So if you want tickets, you're going to have to go to the website. It's the Bama Bigfoot Conference.
Yep, that's it. And the last thing we're going to talk about that.
Okay, so here we are, May 18th. Oh my gosh, this is going to be so much fun. We are holding an event at Ashmore, Illinois, and that's Ashmore Estates. And this is going to be such a great time because we're going to have some speakers. Right now, we do have Robin Terry, Josh Hurd, Letitia Nunnelly is going to be there. Paul Anthony from Paranormal Among Us is going to be there. We might have a couple other tricks up our sleeve. We're not quite sure yet. But the fun part is that we're going to listen to the few speakers during the day. We're then going to feed you. We're going to feed you. And then after that, we're going to go on a ghost hunt till 2 a.m. So, I mean, it is going to be a full day. So get your tickets now and make sure you get lots of rest before then.
Yes, for sure. Because that is
a long day.
An all-nighter.
Yeah, it's an all-nighter.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. So yeah, tickets are on Eventbrite, as Brandy said. So everybody's welcome. Come on and see us.
Just check it out under Blondes and Booze.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Well, let's just not waste any more time.
Yes, let's bring her up.
Let's bring her up.
Welcome,
Hello.
Gypsy Jules. Yay!
Hey,
I am
thank you.
so glad. I am so glad we met you, and I have to thank Tex for that. He's like, you've got to meet her. You've got to meet her. And I'm like, okay. He goes, come on. We went over there once and you weren't there. And then he's like, all right, we'll go back later. So then we turn around, we go back, and then I start talking to you. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. And then she ran over to me and she's like, you got to meet this lady.
Yeah. I'm like, it's a soul sister right there.
That was
and then you went to dinner, we all had dinner that night. So that was really cool.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great getting to meet y'all at the Paracon in Texas. And where are y'all both from?
Missouri.
Okay. I'll be going to Missouri, I think in April. I'll have to look at the dates for a metal detecting hunt convention thing.
Very cool.
So I'll be up y'all's way.
You'll have to look us up.
I will.
What city?
It is near the what is it? The Diamond Crater. I can't think of the name. No.
That's got to be down in the Ozarks.
Arkansas. That's Arkansas. Wait, we're in Missouri. I can't remember right now. Sorry.
That's all right.
That's all right.
When I find out,
I'm sure we can look it up. Yeah. Because I'm thinking metal detecting. Well, that could be anywhere. Because Missouri is riddled in history. So from Civil War battles on. So I can see all the history.
Mm-hmm. I'll definitely let y'all know. Yeah, I love how well, we'll get into that in a minute, but it was so great meeting y'all at the Paracon, and
likewise.
I had met the Kling brothers. Let's see, it was like at a little Paracon thing in Jefferson, Texas. If y'all have ever been to any of the the places, the tours there, I know they do ghost tours and all that. It's loaded with so much history. So I've done metal detecting there, as well as I got to go with the Kling brothers to some of the haunted locations while we were there.
They are two of the nicest guys.
They really are. We actually, how I had met them through, y'all know Greg Lawson?
Yes.
So Greg and I used to live close by each other, and we met. When we met, he found out what I do through metal detecting, and he's telling me, hey, I've wrote all these books, this paranormal books and stuff, but he loves, how it connects with history and stuff as well. And so we went on a few adventures together, and then through Greg, he was actually working with the Kling brothers on a cold case for a missing person that is in the area where I live, an old case. And anyway, so that's how I met them. And I brought out my metal detector, and we had a psychic, one of my psychic friends and a psychic friend that they had brought as well, that kind of worked a little for a while on that.
Very cool.
Hoping to go back out there and get some closure on that.
Yeah.
Right.
They actually, we did a show with them on that.
Yeah.
Did you?
I was going to let our chat know they can go back into our archives. I think it was about 8 months ago. I think we did about 8 months ago.
May of last year, I think, something like that.
Yeah. So you can go back into our archives, and they tell us the whole story about what happens from start to finish. And we were at Perry Unity, and they were there, and they started discussing the story. And it's before, it was just right at the beginning of what was happening. They hadn't even gone out there to investigate or anything yet. So we were on pins and needles waiting for this story. So we had to wait for the story.
They told us at that time. So, I've done events with the Kling brothers before.
Yes.
And so when I seen them at Perry Unity, I'm like, hey, you got to come on our show. And they're like, well, we will. We don't do shows, but we will. We'll come on yours. And I was like, but we got to talk about this.
We don't want to talk about the other stuff. We don't want to talk about TV shows. We want to talk about this case.
Right. So that's what we did. And it was a great show. It really was.
Wow.
Like I said, they're two very nice guys and good investigators,
They really are. They're good, very good investigators. And they captured a voice that night that we were, there, that sounded, they, played it back, that sounded just like the missing girl.
Like the girl. Yeah, we heard it. Brandy and I heard that.
It's crazy.
It is.
I know. We'll get into that because I want to touch on first. Let's talk about what you do. I mean, how it all began, and then we'll go into how it relates to why you're on Blondes and Booze Paranormal podcast.
Sounds
because
good.
I find it so interesting. So go ahead and tell us about that.
All right. So for me, I've been metal detecting now for 25 years, but I've always, I grew up with, my father and family members, kind of different types of treasures, always out in nature, loving to, explore. And in school, I hated history actually, because it was just, memorizing a lot of dates for tests and all that. But now, as an adult, and how it connects with the objects that I dig up, at these locations, and where, sometimes there may not even be a house. I'm sure y'all have investigated places where there may not even be, it may be out in the open.
Yeah.
Where something used to be. Well, anyway, I love how, I can dig up an object and, relate it to a part of history, a time. And what's really fascinating is how more recently I've connected, which we'll talk about that more in depth in a minute, is how you can connect it with paranormal investigations as well. So that's more of a new thing for me, but I'm actually fascinated by it. And it came around in the right time period of my life, which I'll go a little more in depth about that as well, if y'all want.
Awesome.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just going to let everybody know that, we have you on tonight, but Monday night, Texas Front Porch is doing part 2 with you.
Yes, we're going to be doing part 2 on Monday.
Yep.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Well, I'm really looking forward to that. Tex, it was great meeting Tex, and he was a hoot. I know you're listening and watching.
He's out there.
So we had some laughs. I'll definitely say that at the Paracon.
Yep.
But getting back to how it kind of evolved over time. Well, for instance, what's fascinating to me is, back to why it's come about at a right time in my life is I grew up in a very religious, kind of a strict religious upbringing, where anything paranormal, anything I was taught that's wrong. It's a evil, whatever, however you want to relate that, or how I can relate that by saying, oh, well, it's of the devil or whatever, evil, don't mess with any of that. Don't do any of that. So that was my upbringing until later in life, when I had my very first paranormal experience. I was actually pregnant with my oldest son, and had my very first paranormal experience. And after that, when you have your first experience, and nobody can really understand unless they were there and a part of it.
Right.
And it opened up my mind to a lot of possibilities, exploration over the years. And then I would say over the last maybe 7 and a half years after I started my YouTube channel, with, showing more of what I do and my metal detecting, and basically made it into my career now. through, a hardship in my life. I had kidney cancer and
Wow.
lost my right kidney. And it's weird how life unfolds sometimes and wakes you up to certain things. And then now how it's led me from the metal detecting and now into meeting all these paranormal people and then connecting the history and the metal detecting with that. So that's basically what's happened more recently. And so I'll be happy to share more about that.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
my thing is you had your first paranormal experience after you gave birth?
No, it was actually while I was pregnant. And
While you were pregnant?
and my husband at the time, he was like, I called him up. We had a business at the time, and I called him up and I said, get home right now. And he's like, comes home and he's like, what happened? He says, you look like you just saw a ghost. And I'm like, well, I didn't see one, but
Right.
I'll go ahead and tell y'all a little bit. I'll try to do it quickly about my experience. So, pregnant with my oldest son, my first son, and I decide I want to lay down and rest. You're getting closer to the end of the pregnancy, and you know how tired you get and all that. So I decide, okay, I'm going to lay down, and I'm kind of like in fetal position, laying on top of the covers, and then all of a sudden I hear the front door open and close. And I was like, I raised my head and I said, Chris, is that you? Because I didn't see anybody walk in or walk through. Right. And I knew I always locked the doors because, my mom kind of made me paranoid of that growing up.
Right.
So I always locked the doors. So I was like, that's weird, And so I raised my head. I'm like, Chris, is that you? And nothing. Then all of a sudden I had this overwhelming feeling like something was standing right in front of me at the edge of the bed. And I was like, what the heck? And I'm sitting there frozen. And then the next thing I know, I feel it move across my body and it like spoons me. And I'm sitting there looking over, going like this, like, what the heck's going on? I don't see anything, but I feel it. I know it's present. And then all of a sudden I started hearing it. And the next thing I know, I heard it was a male's voice and he was weeping, and it sounded, and that's the only way I can describe it. When I say weeping, it sounded like this deep weeping sound. And so it sounded almost like he was in a well of some sort, like kind of like that.
Oh my goodness.
It was freaky. And so I'm sitting there going, and I'm frozen and I'm just barely lifting my head. I don't see anything and all of that. And then the next thing I know, he says something. I don't know what he said, but he said something to me. And then it was like, I felt the energy just suck out of the room and up, like it just went and it was gone.
Wow.
That's crazy.
It was crazy. And so from then on, it wasn't till later on in life, probably when my boys were like teenagers and started having things happen around the house, and I didn't want to say anything, and neither did the person I was living with didn't want to say anything, and just a lot of crazy stuff. And so I was like, things flying off the shelf, being touched and all that. And so once you've, been exposed, to that, you definitely become a believer. And so through a lot about that time is when I got, not long after that, I think is when I got had my cancer diagnosis and all that. So I went through what I call, a spiritual awakening. And believe a lot differently than what I used to. And everything is definitely energy. And even these objects that I dig up, through metal detecting, it holds energy not only from how it was made or who made that object, but also just the person that last held it, the person that object was, dear to. So everything is energy, and that's what's so unique about using metal detecting and paranormal, and especially these objects, to be able to use them in investigations for not only connecting the history with the property you're investigating, but to be also be able to connect it to maybe someone that dwelt there, or possibly use it as a trigger object or something like that in the investigation.
Wow. So. And your first encounter with a ghost, like, how horrifying. Seriously.
I know.
I was so scared, and it took me a while to finally get up and make that call.
Yeah.
And then he chopped it off to, well, you're pregnant, it's hormones, and
wow.
How that goes.
And it makes me think about a lot of things, because Chris and I have had discussions about a lot of psychic mediums and things like that they had childhood illnesses, and sometimes that illness never quite goes away or it turns into something else, but they constantly have problems through their life, and that just makes me think that since you had an illness, and then you turn around and then you're going through pregnancy, which we know that turns you upside down. You're not yourself. You don't know who you are at that point. And then you have your first experience there. I'm wondering if that just
elevated that. That's a really good point. And I never thought about that, about when I was pregnant and that happened, and why it didn't happen till years later, another paranormal experience. And or maybe there were other experiences there that I just didn't see or think of. I don't know. Or sometimes sometimes if you're in a room with a bunch of people, you may not notice other things, things going on.
Yeah.
It's not like I was investigating,
Right. Well, and then because that was so traumatic too. I mean, again, it was traumatic. You may have shut yourself off until later when you felt okay about it, and that's possible. But either way, I think it is fascinating that your first one is during your pregnancy. I was just like, I mean, because Chris and I, we're pretty much the same, that we've been, dealing with the paranormal our whole entire life, even memories of childhood. And even before I could remember, there are stories that my family would bring up, and my family was definitely paranormal on my mother's side. Krista's was not, but her grandma was, at least thank goodness she was there for her. But we've been dealing with this our whole life, so we never had a chance to turn it off. Or it just became the paranormal for us.
The normal. It became
become normal. The paranormal normal. Well, so I get that. That.
And it is so true about so many people, especially with psychic abilities, have had near-death experiences, etc., or some tragic thing happen in their life. For instance, it's funny that you mentioned that. I think part of my upbringing too, I have a very close aunt that I've always been really close to, like another mother, that had these prophetic dreams. And with these prophetic dreams, they would come true. But they would be like very symbolic. And anyway, I remember as a young girl listening to my aunt tell these stories, and now that she can even recall past lives and memories and how she died in those past lives, which is amazing to me, because again, I wasn't raised that way to even believe in past lives. So it was fascinating to me to learn about that. So I think that might have been a good thing that, I had that part, in my life. And I remember my mother, which my mother is the one that was very strict. in my upbringing, but she had, it was a great grandmother of some sort that she claimed that I looked a lot alike, that could move objects and was very psychic.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe we all have abilities.
Yes.
It's just learning and knowing how to tap into them. And like you were talking about with the being pregnant, it could have been me really alert to certain, hormones, energies in my body to be able to connect.
I call it mommy mode is what I call it. I call it mommy mode. It's just like when everything's heightened, your sense of smell, your taste, just everything, even touch is all elevated at that time. And I think it just kind of like popped for you right then, which I think that's just fascinating. I'm sorry, but it's the first time I heard that. And I that is fascinating to me.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
I love it. I love it.
So what led you to this point? I mean, we're not quite
to the paranormal part.
The paranormal part yet, but
okay.
I mean, I know that you've had quite a run of what's going on.
Yeah. So before the paranormal started coming about, I was on several TV shows with my metal detecting on the History Channel and Discovery Channel, and some other stuff more recently. And then after meeting with the Clean Brothers, another experience I had, I went to Haunted Hill House. I'm sure y'all have heard of that one in Mineral Wells.
Yes.
In Mineral Wells.
Yes.
And there's this one experience I had. I wasn't investigating because I was invited there to metal detect and show people how to metal detect. And it was a fundraiser for something similar to what y'all are doing for the abused women or battered women. Mm-hmm. And so I was there to do the metal detecting. So everybody in the evening after it got dark, I'm in the kitchen where they've got all those monitors, the screens set up in the kitchen.
Yes.
And I'm in there snacking and eating and watching everybody off in these rooms doing their paranormal investigation. And I'm just like, oh, wow, I've got a show going on here. I can watch all what's going on in all these rooms, with everybody investigating. And I'm sitting there all by myself in the kitchen. And all of a sudden I feel this on my shoulder, tap, tap, tap. And I'm like, whoa. And I remember that night I had my first visit. I've been there 3 times now. My first visit, there were so many experiences. And I'd never, since I had a few other experiences in the past, but nothing like I did at Haunted Hill House. And so on Beyond Oak Island, when I was in one of the episodes, Maddie Blake and I, he's the host of Beyond Oak Island, we're walking back. We were about to walk up the mountain to go metal detect and film. And we're walking by this old well there. And we both hear a little girl out of body voice. And
did you understand what it said? Did you
we both looked at each other and I said, did you hear that? And he goes, yeah, I heard that. And I don't know what she said, but we could tell it was a little girl. And anyway, so later we told Catherine, about it. And she's like, well, supposedly a little girl drowned in that well that y'all were walking by. So that was creepy.
I would have walked by that, heard that voice, and went, nope. And I kind of pride myself on getting into, places that are pretty scary. And I would be like, nope, a little girl in a well? No way. Nope. No thanks, I'll pass.
We were getting ready to go film, back on the hill behind Haunted Hill House. And so I guess I had to kind of, gain my composure. But Maddie, when we were in the kitchen on a little film break, he captured an orb and it just like hovered, and he ended up playing it that Halloween he has like a little podcast as well.
Oh,
so that was really cool. So
that's cool. When I went to Haunted Hill House, I'm going back in May. But the first time I went, the activity was so heightened that I was exhausted. It was just like it just kept going and going and going. And I'm like, wait. And we were sitting there going, are we even going to be able to sleep in this house? We didn't know. We're like, we kept walking outside just to breathe. And then I'm like, I'm going to lay down on the couch. I'll turn my recorder on. That's it.
Right.
I'm going to bed. so we ended up sleeping there, but yeah.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that night, my first experience, I'll talk about that on Texas thing on Monday. I'll tell y'all my story. I did not sleep that night, and I'll tell you why and all that. But I ended up on the couch with a friend that sat there and talked with me that whole night because of what had happened. It was creepy.
Wow.
But yeah, that was an amazing experience. But through there, Haunted Hill House, we went to Hangman's. It's a haunted place, but it's also a haunted house in the around Halloween.
Yes.
And Hangman's, I can't think of what you call it, in Fort Worth.
Yes.
Where they used to, the old helium plant there.
Wow.
Well,
somebody did a show on that. I'm sorry. I don't know if it was a documentary or something, but it is an actual haunted house that's haunted.
Yeah, it's a haunted facility where they used to make the helium for during like World War I and World War II, especially World War I, I think. But anyway, so that's where I met my friend Ryan, that is a paranormal investigator, and we got to talking about some of my metal detecting. I brought some of my metal detecting finds and stuff. And I was actually asked to be a guest on, I don't know if y'all know Tim Wood from, what's the TV show?
Is it the one that does the town?
Yes. Haunted, what is it? Ghost Town Terror.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm like sitting there. I'm thinking real hard. I'm like, yes.
So, I was asked. He had watched some of my metal detecting videos on my YouTube channel, and long story short, had asked me to possibly if I'd be interested in being a guest and hopefully find some historical items in the ghost town to connect with, the paranormal activity and stuff. And I had said yes. And anyway, I was talking to Ryan about it that night at the helium plant. And he said, well, hey, if you ever want to do a show, I would be interested in doing a paranormal show where we connect that, because that just sounds fascinating. And so that's how we birthed the Ghost Detectors show, which y'all saw. I guess y'all saw the poster there.
Yes.
And so that is a brand new show we're still working on. So I can't say too much or disclose too much about it yet, but it's been a lot of fun, and that's exactly what the show's about.
That's awesome.
Is connecting the history to the haunting.
Connecting the history to that.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating, and it's never really been done on this level.
Yeah.
So
do you know what network, or we don't know that yet?
We don't quite know that yet. We've got a lot of people looking at it, so we will hopefully know something soon. But once we do, we'll make an announcement for everybody.
We'll just have to start scrolling networks.
Right.
Or send us, let us know,
now.
and then we'll make sure we share it out on our pages.
I was going to say we'll just call you now. I mean, it's like, okay, look, is it coming out yet?
and I will be sharing that information if y'all follow me, like on my Facebook, Instagram, as well as my YouTube channel, which for those of you that don't know, so I have a YouTube channel called Zero Discrimination.
Yep.
And
I just shared it again in the chat.
Oh, thank you.
There you go.
Yep.
And if you are interested in learning more about metal detecting, of course, I actually sell metal detectors for a company called The Digger's Den, but I just published a book, and at the Paracon was right after, so I didn't have that many copies there, but I just published my first book, and this
Wow.
one is a beginner's guide to metal detecting, and so it'll help get you started.
Mhm.
And that way, if you are interested in learning more on some of these properties that you go, and investigate, and that could be something you could add to your investigation.
Absolutely. I'm sitting here thinking because, we do go on a lot of cases, and,
We do.
we also do private cases. And you know what? A metal detector, Brandy, would not hurt to have in our toolbox.
Well, I just so happen to have one.
Cool.
It's a Whiteman. It's not, the top of the line, but it's a Whiteman. It works. It's good. It'll pick up something for us. Yeah, I never even thought about that.
Me either. Though, so I know you've done like Civil War battlegrounds and things like that. So I'm a old Civil War reenactor.
Oh,
And
wow.
Yeah. So there was a battle here in Missouri. It was called the Battle of Centralia. And it was a huge battle. And there on the battlefield, we heard like horses running in the night, that there wasn't any horses out running free in the night. We also heard cannon fire. We actually have EVP of cannon fire. And so we went out into the field. We actually found, several of my teammates found old cannonballs.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating.
Mm-hmm. So
Well,
it's just really cool stuff.
If you ever get to do that and they allow metal detecting, I'd love to tag along. That'd be a blast.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I find that they don't allow that in a lot of places. They don't want you digging up the grounds.
It depends on where you're at.
Well, see, I was going to say this was private property, and they wholeheartedly was okay with it.
Most private property will be okay, and of course they can keep the items. And if they want, a lot of times I'll detect places and they'll be like, they don't care, but they do sometimes want to see the items or whatever.
Sure.
But yeah, a lot of the protected areas, I totally understand because
it's our history,
it's our history. That's why as a detectorist, though, I've donated a lot, over the years to museums. Sorry, my dog is scratching at the door.
You're good.
That's all right.
But I've donated a lot of stuff to museums, and to me, it's about keeping the history alive. And
Yes.
But that is one thing I will be doing, and coming up in June is investigating and metal detecting a battlefield.
Wow.
With the Kling brothers. So
that's awesome.
Well, I wouldn't expect no less. Yeah, they are the Civil War kings. They love that.
They love it, and they have family members that fought in the Civil War, and so there's a really big connection there. So they're really excited, and they're going to be getting into metal detecting as well. So it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, let's move into the metal detecting in the paranormal side. I understand that you're trying to connect the history to the haunting, but what are you doing with these items after you find them?
So a lot of them, it depends on where we're detecting. If it's a home, like the last property I detected with our team, it was funny. I gave the items to the owner, and she was like, wow, there was one of them was one of her items, personal items. So that was really cool. So it just really depends on the property you're detecting and what they want to do with it, that type of thing. But the main thing we're trying to do is, once I find these items, is see how it relates to the history that we might be trying to, because we might find out something new that we might, not have known about the history. That's that's what's so amazing about metal detecting. We have surprises all the time about
Yeah.
things that you're kind of like, how did that get here?
Mm-hmm.
And then with a little research, you never know what you might dig up history wise, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And like, for instance, I'm sure y'all found like a property where maybe there was another house built over a house, that used to be there.
Yeah.
And you didn't know it until like, say I'm out there metal detecting and I find something way older and then another thing and another thing. And then you're able to connect it and start through doing some research and say, oh, well, there was a house here back in the 1800s that, burned down. And
Wow.
maybe that's connected to whatever's haunting or whatever, energy is still there. So.
Right. I just remember, my father was the one who got me into metal detecting, because they used to live 70 miles south, before he passed away. They lived 70 miles south of me, but they were like one house and there was nobody else for like 5 miles. They were their only house. But he get me out there in those fields and start metal detecting. And once we started finding marbles and all kinds of stuff, and he said that there used to be a whole little town there called the New Netherlands, and all the houses are gone, but some of the stuff still remains in the ground. And if I would have known then to take the marbles and do a little investigation of my own, I never thought of that, until we heard you talking about it. And then Krista says, well, we need one. And I'm like, oh, I got one. I got one.
It's time to dust that off.
I know. It's time to get that out. But
the main thing you want to do with your metal detector, to where technology is these days, and if a detector, depending on the age, if it's been stored for a long time, sometimes the old batteries in there will corrode if you left the battery in there, so you can ruin a detector. So I would get it out, check it, make sure it's still functionable. Also, another thing that a lot of people don't realize with the technology, the older detectors, even the last 5 years, has totally changed. And it's amazing what the newer detectors can do. So some of the older detectors, you don't get the depth. Some of them will only go, maybe this deep, where you may be missing an object that is here, but you need to go a little deeper. So something to check out, test your machine, and see if it's still up to par technology wise. Also is the strength of your detector. A lot of the older machines, or the cheaper, well, not always cheaper, but the less expensive, some of those will only detect like an inch or two. And you want something, if it's an object that's been in the ground for about 100 years, you want something that's going to go at least a foot on a coin, or 8 to 7, somewhere inches. So
that's good to know.
Yeah, you want to test that out, because the longer it's been in the ground, it's gonna
go deeper. Now, are you using any of these objects, like giving them to paranormal investigators, and they're using them as trigger objects to use during their investigation?
Yeah, one thing we're doing is we have a psychic that is on the team. And one thing, I'm fascinated by psychics. So I work with another psychic too on another project that I'm working on, hopefully another TV show that we're working on. It's strictly, it's not paranormal, but it's the treasure side.
Sure.
But this particular psychic can do map dowsing. And yeah, and what's amazing,
Chris and I are both like, whoa. Okay.
What's amazing about this is she can pinpoint certain things, and she'll get images, that'll pop in her head and say, okay, Gypsy, go to this location and circle around and metal detect there. And this is what I'm getting, and this is what I'm feeling and hearing and seeing. And so it's amazing to work with these psychics and learn. And something I'm learning more about. If you do a little research, how often have y'all worked with dowsing rods? Have y'all ever?
Oh,
My hands aren't steady enough, so I
Okay.
personally don't use them. But
I've got them. I mean, they're not my favorite. I'm going to say
Right.
that's not my favorite, but yeah, I do use them.
It takes some practice. But the first time I had really my first experience with dowsing rods was in a metal detecting club that I had started. And there was an older gentleman that would come to the meeting, and he wouldn't metal detect, but he was like our historian, and he wrote a history book on the town that we were in and all this stuff. And he asked me one day, he said, have you ever used dowsing rods? And I was like, no. I remember my granddad, using something to find water, and that's the only thing I'd ever heard of. And he says, well, I'm going to make you a pair, and you go out in your backyard, you do this and find the water lines and all that. So I did, and it worked. And then he said, now we're going to do something really crazy. And he said, we're going to go to a cemetery. And what he had me do was walk across the graves, and how it reacted, he would let me know, and you'd say, okay, if it does this, it's a female. If it does this, it's a male. If it does this, it's a child. And it worked. And I was blown away. I was so blown away. It works. I don't know if it's the energy still coming from the bones, and connecting with your energy field through the rods. It's got to be something like that. But what's interesting about that is our bodies give it off frequency, right? Yeah. And these rods are conductive, just like what's in a metal detecting coil.
Okay.
All right.
So, metal detectors work the same way. Metal detectors work off of frequency. And inside that coil on the bottom of your metal detector is copper wire. And that's the same way that these rods work as well, off of your frequency coming from your body and connecting with whatever other energy is there, whether it be water. People, I know gold hunters, treasure hunters use dowsing rods for that too. But so when I was at Haunted Hill House, the first time I saw the dowsing rods being used for their investigation, and I was blown away. I was like, wow, I've used them to help, find these bodies and that sort of thing, but I had never seen it used in a paranormal investigation. So it's neat how those two worlds have connected there as well.
Absolutely. Let's fast forward a little bit, and let's talk about the missing girl.
Okay. While we're going to do that, we're just going to go ahead and take our 10-second break.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that darn 10-second break.
We're still in the frame. So everybody, 10 seconds.
10 seconds.
10.
Commercial
9,
here.
8, 7.
Right here, Randy. Right here.
5. We're right here, Randy. Take the break here. Okay, we're good. All right. Go ahead, Kristen.
I love it.
Yeah. So how did you get hooked up with that project?
So that was through Greg, as I was talking about earlier. Greg, I had just pulled up in my friend's driveway in the town over. We were going to go metal detecting, and I got this text from Greg, and he said, hey, what are you doing? Or where are you at? Or something like that. And I said, hey, I'm in so-and-so. And he's like, well, guess what? I'm right up the road from you. I'm working on a missing case. And I was like, what? He said, why don't you come over here and bring your metal detector if you can? So I was like, okay. And then that's when I met the Kling brothers right there. So that's how I got involved. But what's fascinating about that is when I was younger, back in the 90s, this girl went missing in the 90s.
Yes.
When the video store, I would come visit here in the summer, and I was visiting about the time my cousin had seen her. I'd probably been in the video store. I'd probably even seen her before. This missing girl.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how that kind of came around, and I got to go work on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that whole case is really fascinating. And what the claims you, Greg Lawson, all you guys are doing, just to try to bring closure to people. I mean, that's just,
it's amazing. And I know there was some more stuff that has maybe come up. When I was there, I had immediately text my psychic friend that I work with on the treasure stuff. And I said, hey, I'm going to this location. And immediately she started picking up on this pile of bricks. Well, when I got there, she said, so I'm seeing bricks. And I said, well, I'm standing literally 2 feet from a pile of bricks.
wow.
And that is where the cadaver dog had a hit at
Wow.
that pile of bricks. Months, I had no idea. She had no idea. All I still gave her is the location, and she started getting these flashes.
Yeah.
So it was crazy.
Wow.
Just to fill everybody in, again, we've talked about this story. You can find it in our archives with the Kling brothers, Brad and Barry Kling. But what had happened is this girl had gone missing, and the suspects are how can I say, they're not the best in town. Everybody's trying to keep everything hush hush. They're doing everything they can to not let the truth come out. And there is a possibility that this girl's body, who was possibly there, had been moved. So, I mean, what do you do with that? I mean, it probably just like makes you sick to your stomach, because you're so close. You're so close. You've got all these things pointing to this one area. Even cadaver dogs.
She was what, 18 or something?
Yeah, she was very young. Very
Yeah,
young.
I think she was in her teens, Krista. I think you're exactly right. And like I said, it's a smaller town, correct? Right, Gypsy? It's a smaller town, so everybody's trying to keep everything as it is, and don't want to push any buttons with anybody. So, I mean, this has been a hard case anyway.
Yeah.
But I mean, you have so many things hitting in one spot, including the EVP. Because if I remember correctly, the girl said, "I'm right here."
Right here. Yeah.
I'm right here.
And when they got that EVP, if I remember correctly, it wasn't far from where I was standing, where the bricks were. Not far from there. Now, upon talking to my psychic, when I had gotten there and all that, from what I understand, according to my friend, the psychic, she said if we would have right there where the cadaver dog had hit and where she was seeing the bricks, if we would have had time to really painstakingly been able to sift and stuff, she thought we would find she was getting a tooth near where
some type of fragment
where the dogs had hit, and bone fragments. But she also thought that my friend thought that the bones had been scattered and down part of it down to where the creek was. So and it was funny, she had no idea that there was a creek there, but lo and behold, as soon as she picked up on a creek and something being down there as well. So I'm sure with more time to investigate, we would find remnants. My thought is, if I could have had more time with the metal detector there, we had a very short, limited time, because I didn't know I was going to even get involved in it that day. But hoping to find, we're not sure, was she wearing any jewelry?
Sure.
Was she wearing a necklace, rings, you name it. There's all kinds of things you can find.
Wow.
metal
Just to let
detector.
everybody know in chat too. I will I'll pin that video on our YouTube channel with the Kling brothers so you guys can kind of get the backstory,
Yeah.
and then I'll also share it in our Facebook group as well.
Yeah. And so I know that we're telling the story in bits and pieces, because
There's a
we
lot
already
more
know
to the story.
there. Yeah. And it's very fascinating.
Yeah.
And
It really is.
it have you ever worked with anyone else on a missing persons case by any chance? I mean,
One other, when I lived in Galveston, Texas, and Galveston is where my beginnings of metal detecting over 25 years ago is where I really got started deep into metal detecting, and with the police there on something. But it's funny that you say that, because that's another idea I have for a TV show that I just recently wrote a pitch deck on. I'll tell you all the name of it.
Yeah.
It's called Mysteries of the Missing. And
right. Okay.
if I can get this going, I think it would be fascinating, because what had happened is a lady had reached out to me about asking if you could pick up the heart, a pacemaker.
Mm-hmm.
That she was working on a missing case and was wanting to know if a metal detector would pick it up. And I was like, yes, it will. Pacemakers are made out of mostly titanium.
Mm-hmm.
I find titanium rings all the time.
Uh-huh.
And so it kind of got that going, and hoping to get that one in the future as well, because I think that would be totally fascinating to be able to solve some of these cases.
Absolutely.
Because
And to me, it would be just the reward of helping the families and just
exactly to bring closure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd watch it. I'd watch it. I definitely would. That's right up our alley.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Because Chris and I are like, we're two peas in a pod. We travel everywhere together, and we'll end up, and she's like, are you going to turn something on to watch? We're just laying there. I'm like, yeah, I'll turn something on. She goes, make sure I like it too. I'm like, okay. So, and it's always something to do with missing people, murder mysteries or something, it's always something like that. And it's true, everybody out there, women do watch murder mysteries and sleep well. It just happens. We sleep well.
We do.
The ID channel is our friend.
Yeah. That's so true. And it's funny, because I've always been fascinating, and maybe that's why I love metal detecting so much, is part of that research part that goes into it, solving that mystery, being able to connect it to where I'm metal detecting history wise and doing that research and fitting all the pieces of the puzzle together. And that's exactly, what this is, as well as being able to take these little breadcrumbs and piece it together and come up with glean some new light on it. Yeah. And what was I was going to say one more thing, because you made me think of it. I know that y'all talk about UFOs and other stuff, Sasquatch, all kinds of other paranormal things. And that's something that I've also gotten really into the last several years as well. More of that as well. And I just ordered these, and I'm going to try this out, so y'all be hearing it here. I love TikTok. I'm kind of addicted. So I watched this video where they take these, and what they do is you take the red and the blue and you cut it and put it on top of each other, and then you can tape it to your iPhone camera. And what they were doing on a clear day is they were going outside and they were catching UFOs through this, because basically you're using a different light spectrum than you do from your eye. And they were catching this, And I'm curious to use it also in some of the paranormal investigations to see, because we watch stuff all the time that's captured on the camera, but you don't see it with your naked eye.
Sure.
And so it'll be interesting to see how this works. So y'all try
Yeah,
that
well,
too.
and that's awesome that you brought that up, because, paranormal investigators are using 4K spectrum cameras to catch that. And really, when they take the pictures, it looks like if you were looking through those put together and over a lens. That's what it looks like. So if that works, I'd be interested, because they're spending hundreds, even thousands of dollars on these cameras when we could do it for what? $1?
Right. I bought a whole package of these off of Amazon. So they're very inexpensive. Very
exactly. I
inexpensive.
mean, we could spend, $1, and be good for a while.
Well, another thing that piqued my interest is, I can't remember the name of the, I think it's like a mineral, but it's blue. It's like a blue mineral type stone. And I was watching a TikTok, and it was a guy back in, I can't remember what year it was, but he invented like this blue lenses for these glasses. And from what I've been hearing, people were seeing, they were being able to see stuff when they would put these on, and they actually outlawed them because they didn't want people to be able to see the stuff that's in this different dimension. So look some of that up. I'll remind me before Texas show, and I'll see if I can find the name of it and write it down. I've got a bad memory when it comes to names.
I know a lot of stones that are blue, but I'm trying to think of one that would be clear. And I mean, blue celestite is one of the clearest ones I can think of, but it's not that dark of a blue. It's a lighter blue. And then there's blue fluorite. I'll have to think about it. If I go through it, I might be able to think about it. But
I'll find it for you. And so the next one, I'll write it down so I'll remember, or I'll try to memorize it and let you know. I think you can still buy it, but it's very, very, very rare now, from what I've heard, because of what they were able to do with it.
Yeah.
Well, I bet.
And well, think about it, being able to kind of see into a different dimension that we can't see with our naked eye, or most of us can't see with our naked eye. It's kind of it would make a lot of believers, I'm sure.
You'll have to find that out, because somewhere I know somebody who's got some. And hey, look, we're gonna have to try that out, see if that works.
Right. Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Have you ever been out somewhere, anywhere, and something, had the feeling of being watched, and it's not more on the like inhumanoid cryptid side of things, not necessarily the ghost side of things?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. So actually today I was out digging. So on the farm we live on, when I was a little girl, the garden back behind my cousin and aunt's house, they used to till it up, and they would find Caddo Indian pottery back there, and they'd even found beads and stuff. So as a kid, I'd go out there and dig and stuff. Well, my brother and I were walking along the edge of the tree line here yesterday, and he pointed out, he said, "Come here, Gypsy, look at this." And you could see where the moles, the moles in the ground had kicked up the dirt.
Yeah.
And they had left these little mounds, and it had rained. Well, there was Indian pottery there on top of the ground. So today I took my son and I went out there, and I took my sifters, and we were out there digging up pottery. So we dug up quite a few pieces today. It was really cool in that area. So that was a lot of fun. Well, while we're there digging, we hear this horrific noise out in the woods, out in the forest. And I don't know what it was. I'll tell you what it sounded like to me, but then I'm going to backtrack to something that happened to my son and my dad a couple of years ago. So we're surrounded. It's like 80 acres of property where It's mostly trees, but it definitely, there was a lot of Indians that dwelt here years ago. There was never an old homestead here before. The original deed was written on sheepskin to the property. Well, so anyway, my son and I were out there digging up this pottery, and we hear this blood curdling noise. And it sounded like, to me, it sounded like there's a lot of wild hogs in the area.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it sounded like something attacking or eating this hog. And my first instinct, my first thought is, oh my gosh, it's Sasquatch eating his
Sitting down having lunch or something,
He's having lunch, because it was definitely being attacked. Because I'm sitting there going through in my head, if that's what it is, if it is a wild hog, there's not going to be anything else out there that is going to mess with this hog that's going to want to or cause that terrible blood curdling sound that we were hearing. And I don't even know if that's what it was, honestly. I don't know. But backtrack a couple of years ago, my son and my father were out walking in the back part of the property over here, right at the edge of the woods with a tree line. And they kept hearing this weird sound. Well, the next thing you know, they look up and they both saw it. And you got to understand, my dad is atheist. And he does not believe in anything supernatural. He does not believe in the paranormal, although he'll sit there and tell you some things that happened to him growing up. But you're like, okay, come on, Dad. You know you believe. Well, now I'm agnostic. I believe there's something could be. But anyway, they're at the edge of the woods, and they claim that they saw Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever. And once that they looked at each other, and then as soon as that happened, it was like a blur. He just went so fast. There was this big blur, very tall. They both described it the same way, and we're like, whoa. But they've been hearing noises, and I've been out in that woods alone a lot of times walking, and I've heard some really weird things. So I don't know, but today, both my son and I, when we were digging the pottery, I was like, we were both looking at each other. What the heck was that noise? So I don't know. That's just what happened today.
I don't know. I mean, are you interested in investigating or looking or see how, metal detecting could help maybe possibly find cryptid evidence? I mean, are you?
Well, the one thing that could happen, I mean, I could, with it being another dimension, it could possibly, I know that a lot of the times when people are doing paranormal investigations, it'll interfere with people's equipment. I have been at locations where my metal detector just starts acting up for no reason. And, could that be paranormal? Could it be something interfering with that? I don't know.
Right.
But we both
it would be interesting. It would be interesting to put it to the test, especially when, of an active area. Krista and I know several active areas that could probably, help. Because we're looking for basically the same evidence over and over again out there when we're investigating. Of course, we're looking for scat, we're looking for footprints, we're looking for hair, we're looking for tree structures or anything, weird like that. But we're not looking for anything else. So, just maybe bringing in a new element might do something.
Yeah. You never know. It could.
Yeah.
I guess it would just depend on. Well, I don't know. I know that in UFO. Oops.
Oh, sorry. That's okay.
Sorry.
Hey, I can't tell you how many times mine's done that.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
y'all still see me and hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I could see how a metal detector. I have heard. In fact, at Paracon, I talked to a guy that had done a lot of UFO stuff, and that is one thing that they talked about. As he had done some stuff when Roswell happened, with a metal detector, and they had actually found stuff out at the Roswell location. So
Gotcha.
I don't know. I mean, there's lots of different ways, I guess, metal detectors can be used for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I guess, I think it's great that you're kind of tapping in to finding out how far it can go and how much it can help in different situations. I mean, that is fantastic.
Right. It's
Because
just
I never thought of it.
Yeah, a lot of doors have really opened just of lately, especially like talking about the missing persons cases and hoping to solve, some of these cases and how it can relate to, with these paranormal cases as well. So it just keeps getting broader and broader. So
Right. You have some questions. Do you mind answering a few questions from the viewers?
Okay.
Smurfy, well, we already talked about that one. This one here, Shucking It Down with Cornbread asks, what do you think the connection is between spiritual side and with us like-minded people?
That's a
question.
That's difficult one right there.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm like, whoo, that's the whole show.
That is a great question. I mean, that question could be answered broadly or kind of narrowed down to different things. For me, I feel that, how do I put this? I feel as we kind of awaken to more possibilities and awaken to our abilities, I think we're all awakening on a spiritual level more and more as a collective over the earth. And more of us are gaining more of these psychic abilities, all of these different, and picking up on these energies. And there's getting to be more and more disclosure with UFOs, paranormal things that are caught on paranormal camera that, just can't be explained. And to me, for me, I personally believe, that we are energetic beings. We are spiritual beings. And like I said, it goes back to the way I was raised, where I thought that, I had to do a certain thing and be this person to even be able to go to heaven, or I was going to go to hell. And so that was that fear factor that if I'm not this, that I'm going to, be tortured, So as I learned and grew and started studying about past lives and how many people even remember and recall, and if you start down that little wormhole and start learning more about past lives and not only past lives, but like we were talking about earlier, these near-death experiences that, let's say, a lot of people that become have more psychic abilities after these near-death experiences, etc. Because you're in touch more with that spiritual side, I believe, and so it opens up that whatever connection more.
Sure.
Right.
I think, and with technology where it is today, I think that there's beginning to be more and more awakening. And so back to that question, I just believe that we're all connected. We're all from the same source.
Yep.
I believe that 100%.
Yeah.
And what's going on right now, I believe, in the world is people are waking up to more of this spiritual side, more of this paranormal side, and it's there to help wake us up.
Yeah. Yep.
And technology is definitely helping with that. So I don't know if that really answers the question, but
it's a tough question to put it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
I mean, I think spirituality and like-minded people, it raises us up all to the same type of vibrational level, and we all just kind of migrate to each other. And I think that that's happening more and more because more people are opening up to the fact that these things are happening. So I don't know if that helps either, but
Yeah.
I love it.
Yep. Next question. Glenn Dannison asked, and he asked when you guys were talking about the Hell House, do all this ghosts speak in high-pitched voices there?
No, not at all.
I'm over here
Uh,
shaking my head. No,
No.
no.
One particular incident where I heard, it was actually the first out of body voice I heard. It was a group of us. We were all in the kitchen. I think this was maybe the third time I was visiting. We were all in the kitchen. We had just eaten dinner, and there started to be something that was happening to the curtain. So we started this whole thing going on with whatever this entity was that was behind the curtain, and started moving the curtain upon our asking. And it was mind-blowing.
Wow.
It was mind-blowing. I'd never seen anything like this. It was totally mind-blowing, which we do think that was a child because of, I can go more detail about that if you want. But I heard, and I was closer to the window where this thing was happening. I was closer to the curtain. And at one point, I heard what sounded like a male's deep voice saying something to that child or whoever that was moving that curtain, like they were kind of scolding them or something, is the way it felt to me. It was freaky.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, that house has a multitude of spirits, and you hear quite a few. I heard several different men's voices and 2 distinct female. So
Wow.
Yeah.
you just take your pick.
Yeah.
All right. Be Kind asks, Gypsy Jules, is it hard to learn metal detecting, or is it a practice the best, or is practice the best way to learn?
Well, like I talk about in my book that I mentioned earlier, if some of you are just joining, I try to take you from the very beginning part, like whether you already have a metal detector and maybe you just hadn't gotten it out yet, or you're purchasing your first metal detector and kind of how things to practice. It is like anything else. Practice makes perfect.
Right.
I wouldn't say perfect because, we're imperfect creatures, which what makes us unique and wonderful, I think.
Yeah.
But I will definitely say the more time and practice you put into whatever machine you have, the better and more efficient you will get, and you will definitely find more things. So I would definitely say, over time. And it's just like anything, when like you pick up, I know there's prodigies to everything. Now there is such thing as beginner's luck. I will say that.
Yeah.
There's totally beginner's luck. I can't tell you how many people I've taken out metal detecting that had never picked up a metal detector. I showed them how to use it and I said, do this. And then they're like, oh, I got a signal, and I help them dig it up. And they're like, and it's like this amazing thing. I'm like, what just happened?
Right.
Where can we find that book?
So just go to Amazon.
And okay, it's called Just Digging It. Okay.
Just Digging It, or type in Gypsy Jules metal detecting, and then it'll pop up. And it's a quick read, but it's got step-by-step photos of everything from like how to dig a plug properly. Like if you're detecting a property that's got a beautiful lawn, and you don't want to mess that up. And so I show you exactly how to dig a plug and to make it look like you were never there.
That's nice.
Tips on that.
That's awesome.
Digging a plug. And then I talk about the different machines and then the different coils, the different tools that you may need. And then I show some of my finds and how to clean some of those finds.
Wow.
How to display some of your finds.
Wow.
All kinds of stuff. So it's full of all kinds of little nuggets.
Well, even if you're not a beginner, that looks like a great book, because I mean, you're showing people how not to destroy property, and finding things and how to clean it, and that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And last question here, checking it down with Cornbread, asks, can you tell if a spirit is attached to any object?
That's a good question. I usually, to me, I leave that up to the psychic, because in my experience with some of the objects I found, sometimes what they will do is they will definitely pick up something either immediately, like maybe there was an attachment, or maybe it's just an energy where they're able to say, okay, I'm getting a connection, and I'm getting the name Mary, and then you start finding out, well, there was a lady named Mary that lived in this house, and maybe that was her ring, or just something like that. So I do believe that that a spirit can attach itself to an object.
Yeah.
But for me, I think, for the most part, I think a lot of it is just that energy left behind, and that helps with the investigation. But I'm sure that there are some. I mean, just think. It kind of reminds me of the movie Lord of the Rings. My precious.
Yeah.
Right.
He's definitely attached to that ring. So
Right.
I know if I lost certain things, I would be pretty upset.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This has been a great show, and I definitely thank you for coming on with us.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been a blast. It's been a joy talking with y'all and exploring more about all of this. So
Yeah. And I know Tex has been in here lurking in the chat, and I know he's listening, and I'm sure he's going to have a whole slew of different questions to ask. So don't forget, everybody, on Monday at 8 p.m. Central, Texas Front Porch, we will have part 2 with Gypsy. So don't forget, make sure you tune in.
Yep, absolutely. And real quick, I want to thank Texas Front Porch and Paranormal Pixies for the gifted memberships. Thank you both very much.
Absolutely. And we did forget last night. We went off the rails in a weird direction, and we forgot to thank everybody last night. So if you donated or anything last night, we thank you so very much, and we apologize for not thanking you last night.
Yeah.
But we got derailed. I mean, yeah. We were talking about milk in boxes. It went from Bigfoot, Dogman to milk in boxes. So we're very sorry about that.
Yes. And sorry, I'm getting a cold again. So I apologize for keep blacking out. I'm getting ready to do another coughing fit. So
yeah, exactly. But I just want to thank everybody for tuning in, and we appreciate you for showing up. Don't forget, we're back on next Thursday at 8 p.m. We will have Josh Turner, and we will have Lyle Blackburn. Don't forget. So we'll see everybody on Monday and next Thursday.
Yeah. And Gypsy, can you hang on for a second after the show? Talk to you a second.
Sure.
Okay. And good night, everybody. And everybody tune over to Paranormal Roundtable. I believe Josh is going live, or he is live now. So
okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, good night.